Every one of us in our own lives, we have to develop what I call the spiritual anchor, the rock, the soul compass, and it has nothing to do with religion. When I say the spiritual anchor, the spiritual anchor is when we know who we are in relationship to ourselves. We know who we are in relationship to the earth, to one another, to our past, to our future. We know how we are empowered and what our potential is. And once you know that, we then can live our truth.
If you can't focus, then you can't focus your energy. And if you can't focus your energy, nothing grows. And people's energy is going all over the place and nothing ever manifests in people's lives. And then they wonder why, the whole visualization, law of attraction thing doesn't work. Well, you can't bloody focus. That's why it doesn't work.
If you leave a lot of blanks in what you want, then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's random, whatever fills in the blank because you never said what you wanted. You can have an idea of what you want, and that's important. But the most important part of that, just having an idea, is not just have a broad idea. I want X. And I go, no. What exactly do you want? Why?
Where am I going? And to answer that question, you have to try and find out what you want. And so I went into that very thoroughly. What do I want to happen? And of course, as soon as you ask yourself that, you begin to fantasize. So I simply set myself to thinking through how far we could go. And so I soon found myself at a great push-button place where I had a fantastic mechanism with buttons available for every conceivable thing I could wish. So I spent quite a bit of time playing with those. You go going like that, and here is Cleopatra. And so on, and then press this button, symphonic music. And when, you're like everybody's dream of the Sultan in the palace, you suddenly notice there's a button labeled surprise. You push that. And here we are.
You are the creator of your reality, but you are a thinker of it into being, not a doer of it into being. There'll be plenty of action that you'll be inspired to, but that's not the way you create. You create through the conscious flowing of thought.
If you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you'd have to change your personality, which means you'd have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. You'd have to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and even what you say and modify them. And then you'd have to look at those emotions that keep you anchored to the past and decide if those emotions belong in your future. So most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. We literally have to become someone else.
I mean, you're the one with the struggles and with the difficulties, and expecting somebody else to change or something outside of you to get better in order for you to make your life work at this level that I'm calling intention is something you have to really take a hard look at. It's in here.
The most important thing, I think, is to know your nature. What is your nature? What are your strengths and weaknesses and your likes and your dislikes? And once you know that, then you also think, what are the fits? Oh, I would like that job, and the job could pay me well. And then you figure out, okay, how do you do it? How do I get to it? Another part of it is the realization that you don't have to make your decisions in your own head. Okay? Now, when you start to realize that you know what you're good at and what you're bad at, that a power comes to you when you start to know, okay, who's the best person to give me the advice, or who's the best person to lead me through this, or when you start to know that you can go beyond what you think and your opinionatedness so that you can triangulate. I call it triangulate with others, so that you find 3 people who are really capable of giving you good advice, who will argue with each other and argue with you so you can see all sides of it and you work yourself through. So it's not just your eyes looking for the path, but it's other people's eyes looking with the path with you, knowing that you're going to have successes and failures. But that power of that collective learning and triangulate well with humbleness is a great power as you go through that cycle. Once you have a fear that you might be wrong, but you have still the audaciousness and courage to go forward, you're a lot smarter than the person who thinks they know. There's a quote that Jefferson said, "He who knows he knows not is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods." And so when you know that, and then with your character and your determination, you go forward. The smartest people I know are the most humble. The more you learn, the more you realize, oh, I'm eager to take in. So that's right. There are many people who can plan for a simple lifestyle that can be wonderful. Sometimes we acquire these needs that aren't anywhere near as big as we make them out to be. You know, do you have a bed to sleep in? Do you have food to eat? Do you have basic health care? Okay, if you start to think, okay, what are my needs that I really need and I'm okay? And how can I make provisions for those needs? Then once you've got that in your mind, you're free, okay? You can go beyond that. You may say, listen, I can do that for a year or 2 years or a month or whatever. But I think we visualize too much the things that we're used to. One of the good things about this exercise is that it brings you back to basics. You can be brought to basics. And like I'm saying, if you have a bed to sleep in and you've got food and so on, and you have those basics and good relationships with people who care about you and basic health care. So if you budget for that and you figure how do you have it, maybe it isn't in the luxurious place you're in. Maybe it's in the country and so on. Once you visualize that and you get that down in your head and you say, I can get that, then your stress will disappear because as you visualize that, in many ways, that's a happy life. It doesn't take a lot there's stimulation, there's nature, there's relationships. These fundamental, wonderful things, the most important things, can be obtained. And so for many of you, I think if you look at that and you budget for that, I'm seeing a number of people who are going broke. And I've watched this over many years. And really, it's just the adjustment process. Once they get to that point where, they get settled, they're fine. It's the ambiguity, it's the worry, it's the stress. So if you do that from the beginning and you have that played out in your head, then you know everything from there you can play with, and it's icing on the cake. So I want to emphasize, you can budget for that, you can look at that, find that scenario, find what that looks like so that you know you've got it down. Then you know you're safe. Once you've got safe, everything beyond that is luxury.